We're starting to get some leaks out there about the schedule and what's going on with the Philadelphia 76ers. But before we get to any of that with the NBA Cup a little bit later and the actual schedule release on Thursday, we got to start with some conversation about our good friends of the show, Daryl Morey, made some misses along the way as his tenure as president of basketball operations with the Philadelphia 76ers. Welcome to the PHLY Sixers podcast presented by Rothman Orthopedics and coming to you live from the Xfinity Lounge. Yes, you heard that correctly. The Xfinity Lounge is our new partner here at PHLY. Kyle Newbeck, Devon Givens, president of basketball operations. Bree, no misses there. She's good. Clean record. But we got to talk about our guy, Daryl Morey, and we will do that.
That's right.
As we start the show off here on this Wednesday, man, where we're getting some things out there from Amazon and the schedule. We're getting the actual schedule tomorrow, the NBA Prime. Now that partnership in play, but the actual schedule released tomorrow. And
we're going to we will live pick all 82 games, wins and losses.
Anthony made me do that with him last year on the show, and I think he had him at like 62 and 20 after we finished. Who knew that the record would actually be flipped last year with that one? So, hey, man, look, we'll get into all of that tomorrow with that when we'll talk about the NBA Cup a little bit later. But, Kyle, some misses. As we talked about, and we gave Daryl Morey some credit for what he has done as a general manager and president of basketball operations, with the Philadelphia 76ers.
I always want to call him general manager, too.
I know, but
that's the guy
Elton's
who runs
title,
so
that's why – we go back to it, and that's how we came up with Bree as president of basketball operations of the show. She runs things. But as we talked about Joel's starting five yesterday, including him and a backup five of his teammates, it had you thinking a little bit of, let's talk about some things the other way of how maybe things could have gone differently if this happened or that happened.
Yeah.
And that's where we landed on this discussion.
And we also, and I didn't send this to Bree, so it's not up to Bree to throw this on the screen, but we got a mailbag question that we didn't use on Monday, but I thought was, that's an interesting thing that we'll jump off of that a little bit. So this was from Muffet McGraw on Twitter. So thank you to Muffet. Do you know the Muffin Man? Asked, would love some talk on Daryl's big picture strategy following the Celtics loss in 23 from a trends perspective. So the big three model and player sign. It's hard to see how this is better than just keeping the all NBA player, James Harden, they had on the team. And so we were discussing this a little bit, Devon, earlier in the week, but led us to this point of what do we think is the costliest mistake or the biggest mistake or however you would like to frame it, the thing that is most responsible for the Sixers being where they are right now, which is not completely dead in the water because they do have the young guys. You can look toward the future and all that, but kind of in that stuck middle ground that nobody wanted to be in. And so where does your brain go first? What do you think is, in your mind, the biggest mistake that you look at and say, if he had done that differently, if they had gone another route as a team, maybe we're not sitting here and talking about them in the position that they're in?
There are a few, but I do think I start with the Tobias Harris 5 years here in Philadelphia. The first few years.
So staying the 5 years, because he was signed by the... Yeah. To be clear,
he was signed in the summer
signed by the Elton Brand conglomerate, but
that
not
was
really Elton Brand.
2019 summer?
Summer of 2019.
Summer of 2019. The fact that it did last the entire 5 years, I think is the biggest mistake. Because while he was good, we put him as the power forward for Joel's best teammate at that position. The fact that, though, when you do, as we said, 50 wins during the season, that's standard for the Sixers during the Joel Embiid era. It's about what happens in the postseason for everybody. That's where the legacies are really cemented based on what you do in the postseason. And the number was what the number was. The 5 years was 5 years. It didn't have to go the full 5 years. Now, maybe they felt like he was their best option. And some of the other things that may have been presented as a trade possibility that were on the table in season and even in the offseason weren't good enough. I don't know what they were, but based on what we had seen in the postseason already, something I think needed to be done at that position, at the power forward position. And we know it's a stretch forward position now, and we've discussed so many different names, but the fact that Kyle and I had to talk about this yesterday and give him his credit of what he did and the year that he and Ben Simmons played their final season together, I thought Tobias Harris should have made the All-Star team over Ben Simmons. Yes, I did say that, everybody. We also go back to great regular season, got it. Too many times in the postseason where we saw single-digit numbers from Tobias Harris from a 3-point game, a 4-point game, a 0-point game that someone mentioned in the chat yesterday about Tobias Harris in those moments. And that's where I think the biggest miss came for Harris. And that's where I would stand on. I would stand on that one lasting as long as it did. And I don't think it had to. I think it was something that they should have found a way to figure out replacing and improving that particular one, because with the Sixers, if I go back to, let's see, I'm just looking at the final year in the playoffs that he had here with the Sixers, and that was against the Knicks. He had in game 1 7 points, game 2 10 points, game 3 8 points, game 4 10 points, and then their elimination game. 19, the elimination game, he shot 0 for 2 in 29 minutes and 20 seconds. Man. They lost by 3 points at home, and he scored 0 points.
2 shots is so wild for a guy who was and it's an elimination game, right? The whole thing is like you go out on the sword, right?
And you would think, all right, maybe he's in foul trouble. Guess how many fouls he had in that game?
2.
0. 0 personal fouls in that particular game. Man. So, and that's just the final one. And he's had some other moments where he's had 25, like the Brooklyn series in 2023, 21, 20, 15, 25 in those games. He's had 26, 27-point games in series for the 76ers where they lost the game, they won the game. He was a big part of it. The series against the Toronto Raptors in 22 where the Sixers won, as we know, when Joel broke his finger, and he had 26, 20, 11, 15, 16, 19 in that elimination game to win at Toronto. So Tobias Harris has had some moments. Same thing when I go back to the Atlanta series in 2021. Numbers-wise, it looked all right.
Looks okay.
Looked all right. He had 20.
Watching it didn't feel that great.
No, it didn't. So
especially that dude, the bunnies he missed in Game 7.
Yeah.
He had a bunch of those. Where
he really did. But again, just looking at that, and he played much better against the Knicks in this past playoffs. But on his way out, again, just to run those point totals: 7, 10, 8, 10, 19, and 0. In 29 minutes in an elimination game.
If you guys can't tell, Devon has no love lost for Tobias Harris in terms of his contributions to the team during this time period.
If there was an opportunity to move off of that contract and improve that position, that's the one I think that was a miss.
Okay, so let me build off of this, Devon, because I do think this is one that for most people is probably further down the list. They're looking at Joel and PG and Harden, and we're going to get to all those. So let me extrapolate on this a little bit. I think the Tobias problem is connected to a larger problem in that as the league has gone more depth heavy, right? It has become less about, you still need the A1 star, you need like a all NBA, high level all-star type of player to make a deep run in the playoffs. But you increasingly need 9 guys that you can trust, even 10 guys you can trust, so that in playoff series where matchups are so important and certain players are just dependent on, I just can't play against this team, or that guy is not as effective against this team. You need to be insulated against that with better depth, and that comes through the draft, nailing the signings, the minimum guys, the two-way players, and getting a lot of value in unforeseen spots, basically. And as some of the league has soft pivoted toward that and moved toward that. Part of the reason why Tobias Harris stayed through the duration of his contract was because Daryl Morey still operates in the 3 stars is better than 2 stars and improved depth. And holding Tobias Harris is connected to the Paul George signing. And even if it wasn't Paul George, if it was another person, it was, I don't want to trade Tobias Harris and his big expiring contract for 2 guys that might be players who can be here 2 or 3 years, but who prevent me from offering 50 million, 60 million, whatever it is, to a Paul George type of player, right? And so Morey at the start of his time in the NBA was forward-looking in terms of how the league was going to go, right? We're going to shoot more threes. We care more about getting to the free throw line than other teams. We're going to stop shooting as many mid-range shots and like overseeing the way offense changed in the NBA, and was a big, like, just stars guy in conjunction with that. And while the rest of the league has adapted the offensive principles, the Mike D'Antoni style and all that, now they're also going in different directions in the roster building trends. And Daryl has not reacted to those. Daryl has said, well, this is how the league has always been. This is what tends to win. And that still, I think, largely is true, right? Like Oklahoma City's top-end talent, great. Boston's top-end talent, great. But you need more of it than you've probably ever needed. The challenges of having one guy on a $50+ million deal, if that guy is not providing that level of value, you're just dead in the water, right? And so the Tobias thing is connected to another sore spot for some people who look at, for example, the start of that 23-24 season. Joel comes back, Harden leaves, he gets exchanged for role players, and Embiid is playing the best basketball individually he has ever played, right? And they have more depth, more role players that they can cycle through. And it's just Maxey, Embiid, and then all the interchangeable parts. And they have this really free-flowing team at that point. They pivoted off of that. It wasn't a majority of fans that said, we want the role players and 2 stars route. But there was a pretty large chunk of people who said, I would rather see them do that. I'd rather see them try a different way than just get a new big name in here and see how it goes. And so I agree with you that I think the lack of movement with Tobias was a big harmful thing that did not happen under Daryl's watch. But I also think it's connected to a bigger problem that they have not moved off of this star belief. And maybe if Joel's healthy, none of this stuff matters, right? And the whole thing is vindicated. But right now, that strategy has not been rewarded, and they have not moved forward in part because of this approach.
And also, when you say the star belief, I don't look at Tobias Harris as a star. He's a name. He got paid. Right. I don't look at him.
But
as
I'm
a star.
saying, like, Daryl never treated him as a star.
No,
to be
and
clear.
I know you're not saying he is either. He cannot, though, hamstrung you then, especially as that. And then I even go a little bit further, because as soon as he got to Detroit, and look, he's older, he's a veteran player. He was a great veteran in the locker room for the 76ers. He was never a problem in that regard. He was a great teammate. Everyone loved him. Part of it, though, is when you would watch the games and you would watch him on the floor, it was mostly a net negative because of what he did. Whether he felt like he wasn't getting enough touches, he felt lost within the flow of the offense, whatever it may be. But then when you looked at the box score at the end, you watched the full 48 and you saw what was ultimately done, that was just as harmful because as star player to almost seem disengaged, not disinterested. I think he was interested, but he wasn't engaged within the flow of the offense. Now, if that's the players, if that's the coach, that's him going to get the basketball and saying, I got this because I have a matchup that I can exploit.
Well, it's the difference between him and like a Jimmy Butler, for example, which Jimmy Butler loves to remind people that they are connected in some way. Jimmy Butler would have times where he's not the centerpiece or the focal point of the offense, and sometimes that he gets a little bit upset about that. But when that happens to Jimmy, that's when you see him like, okay, he's going to crash the offensive glass and get 3 or 4 offensive rebounds. he's going to cut into space and make himself available, right? And we can put some of it on the coaches, right? Certainly,
Sure.
Doc Rivers was his mandate when he was here was when Joel has the ball, I want spacing to be consistent. I want his reads to be, if I'm at the nail and this guy comes from this spot, I know that Tobias will be here, that James will be there, that Maxey will be, and like whoever it might be, fill in the different names. And that's not necessarily the case under Nurse, right? There's a little bit more movement. There's a little bit more off-ball stuff happening when Joel has the ball in the middle of the floor. But that doesn't excuse a player for just sitting in a corner or sitting in one spot if there are opportunities to do other things. And you and I have talked a lot about Tobias's shortcomings in that role, Devon, where it's like, if he would have scored 4 points in some of these games or no points,
They win.
but he was like, I'm going to go get 15 rebounds or I'm going to try to impact the game in a different way. That's a different story, right? Like the ball finds energy, play with some kind of purpose and energy to make things happen. And he was just never wired in that way here. And so that is his biggest failing to me, right? It's not that he took a paycheck that someone else offered. It's that he was either scoring, and when he's in the flow scoring, then the other stuff comes. But that's not what you need from the guy who's going to be your number 3. Because when he was signed, he was going to be the number 3, right? He was never going to be above Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. And then Maxey emerges and Harden comes. Like, you're at best 3-4 on a given night. You have to know he's a very smart guy, right? You have to know that if you are not in the flow of the offense, the team needs you to do something else. And so holding on to him, having seen years of him struggling with that dynamic and not turning that into maybe a couple of guys who come in with that role player mentality and say, I'll average 6 points, but I'm going to go get 10 rebounds or whatever it might be. So certainly his lingering through those 5 years that he was here is a big part of why I think they hit a hard ceiling in the second round.
Yeah, just being around. Again, there were times where he would really pick up the slack on the glass when Embiid or Simmons were out. So you knew he was the number 2 that particular night. He would score and he would rebound. He would do those things. He would do all the little things, the extra things that Kyle is talking about. But then there was those other ones where he just didn't. I mean, he had some of those moments. I mean, you guys brought up the 0 points yesterday in that one game. I had totally forgot that it was the elimination game, that it was the 0 points. 0 for 2 in 29 minutes against the Knicks that night. They lost by 3 points, 118-115 to force a Game 7, albeit back in New York. But 0 points, 0 for 2 from one of your key players, your key contributors. Yes, Buddy Hield went off in that game. That was great. But if you just got 4 points from you're talking about a Game 7, and who knows what happens from that spot. So,
and it's funny too, because I want to say it might be Bomani Jones, or there was, I don't remember who exactly said it, but at one point said, if you need Tobias Harris to score 20, he's going to give you 15. If you need Tobias Harris to score 30, he's going to give you 15. If you need him to score 10, he's going to give you 15. And so the joke was like, he would never do more than this. It was, but frankly, if he could have given you 15 in some of these
That's
games,
easy.
You're winning multiple series that you lost. So
yeah,
it was just, I wish that he had at some point in the contract changed the approach. Never really got there. And look, worked out for him okay. He got another pretty good-sized deal in Detroit to go there.
And he's going to get another one because
a veteran guy.
It was a 2-year deal.
Yeah. So, but I get it. My frustration is less with the Tobias thing individually and more about what it says about how Daryl read the way the league was going, because you can't be someone in that chair. It's easy for us to say, well, this is how it's been, so you shouldn't do this because this is what we have as evidence. And in that chair, you have to be 2 steps ahead of people. And what we've seen is that Daryl, in many cases, has just been not at the cutting edge. He's where a lot of us are. He's with consensus and finds safety in the consensus, and that has held them back.
Yeah, man.
So we'll move on to some other decisions after we probably
we are
talk about some of our
Can I
friends.
give you this
but
because of the point that you made about the 15? All right, they lose game one. We know how game one turned out, and it was really weird. Same thing with game two. They lose by 7 in game one. He had 7 points in that one. Game two, they lose by 3. We know the turnover there on the baseline, the Tyrese Maxey piece. He had 10, 4 for 11 in that one. The win that happened the next game, he had 8.
That's when Joel dropped 50, right?
Yes. They lost at home 97-92. He had 10 on 4 for 10 shooting in that particular game. 19 in the overtime win. So he helped out there on 7 for 11 shooting. And then the goose egg in game 6 in 20.
Never been a more fitting end to a tenure than the two shot attempt exit in the Knicks series.
Something else. Hung on for that contract a little bit too long. All right, on the other side, that was mine. What does Kyle have for his? And we'll get into a few more that while Kyle chooses one, we'll talk about a few others that certainly stand out. Maybe some misses that could have changed the direction of the Sixers during the Daryl Morey era. We'll discuss it when we get back right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast presented by Rothman Orthopedics.
Guys, we have a wonderful new partner to tell you about. That's the good people at Ford. And I want to tell you about the legendary Ford F-Series, the best-selling truck in America for 48 straight years. What a streak that is. That's because the F-150 blends work-ready toughness with modern-day tech and luxury, 6 powertrain options, including a hybrid, and even a fully electric Lightning model. Never thought I'd see the day, Devon. A big Ford F-150, and it's electric. That's amazing. It has best-in-class towing of up to 14,000 pounds, depending on the configuration. Military-grade aluminum alloy body. It's tough. It's lightweight. It's corrosion-resistant. The interior work folds out to become a desk inside your truck. It's smart. It's convenient. You also get the max recline seats, the tailgate work surface. So if you're a carpenter, someone who's doing work on the move, you're hauling stuff, you're doing work out of your truck, the Ford F-150 is right for you. I will just say, as someone who currently does not have one, someone having a Ford F-150 to help you move is maybe the most valuable thing I have in a friend. I actually think I make friends now based on I need to keep my quota of Ford F-150s high so that I know if I move, if I have a big job, if I got to get stuff to my house, they can come through and help me out. If you want more information, just visit your local Ford store.
And folks, we are coming to you live from the Xfinity Lounge here on this Wednesday. And I need to tell you about Xfinity and their internet and the most reliable Wi-Fi with the best in-class equipment that we have here right here at the PHLY studios. That's why we're able to do what we do, bring you the shows on a daily basis and the fashion that we do. Xfinity Wi-Fi is booming, and whether you're streaming, gaming, working from home, or here in the office, the Xfinity Wi-Fi is again booming. Do more of what you love and love how fast you do it with the Xfinity internet. Here's a few things that happen here with Xfinity. Xfinity combines the power of internet and mobile, so you've got lightning fast speeds at home and on the go. With Xfinity internet and mobile together, the Wi-Fi is booming wherever you are. The Xfinity internet plus mobile and supercharge your phone with Wi-Fi Power Boost for the ultimate connection as well. With Xfinity internet and mobile, you can do more of what you love wherever you are. Internet plus mobile equals stronger together. Xfinity combines the power of internet and mobile, most reliable Wi-Fi, claim-based open signal awards in USA with the Fixed Broadband Experience Report. That was done in August of 2024, and it's still rolling with Xfinity. So if you're looking to make sure that you are all ready to go and you need to have it at home, at work, or even on the go with your mobile, Xfinity, that's where it is. Xfinity Wi-Fi, it's booming. Welcome back to the PHLY Sixers podcast here from the Xfinity Lounge as we're talking about some misses here along the way for Daryl Morey. So as we do that, Kyle, what's yours? You asked me mine. I started off with maybe not moving that Tobias Harris contract. Where do you go?
Well, there's a future-looking one that I think is probably on the minds of most people, but I'm going to circle back. I will say among the biggest for sure is what happened in the summer of 23, right, with James Harden, allowing that to get to the point where you trade him and you're able to recoup picks and pick up some decent role players. It opens the opportunity to get Paul George, or it could have been anyone else, but to get Paul George at a later date. But I think with hindsight, Harden was the right type of guy to have to balance out some of Joel's issues, right, with the durability and the team's ability or inability to win games with him on the shelf. He was someone that allowed Maxey to be the best version of Maxey, right, where he could play on the ball and he could do all of the dribble handoff work with Joel Embiid and all of that good stuff that we have come to see more of after Harden left. But with Harden here, you could weaponize Maxey as an off-ball guy. And what you needed to ask from your role players was so much lower because, as we've seen in LA, as we've seen everywhere that Harden goes, Harden takes a lot of the responsibility and pressure off of the role players with how he runs the offense, his passing, his vision, all of that stuff that once it was gone, we see how much you need passers and playmakers and real vision on the team. And this has always been a he said thing, right? Where the Sixers position has been, and Daryl has said publicly, I never got the opportunity to even make an offer to James in that offseason, right? That they had dealt with the tampering issue a summer before, and they were being very cautious and saying, we will negotiate with you and talk about your contract at the first time we can legally with you. And Harden's camp has essentially been like, there's a lot more to it than that. And their fear was that Morey, after allegedly promising James some things, was going to way underpay him, offer him like the mid-level or something below what James's level was. And so that relationship falls apart. And the reason that this one sticks out for me is that we saw how good they were, as at least as a regular season team. We saw that Harden was at least capable of, he can get you one or two in a series, right? Whatever you think of him as a game 6, game 7 guy, and the track record is what it is. The Sixers have needed to finish the series before then, right? It's if you don't get to game 7 because you win one of those earlier games, you don't have to worry about those problems. And so if your team is built around Joel Embiid and this is the guy you're attaching everything to, and it's like, this guy has to be number 1 level, MVP level Joel for us to go anywhere, then the important thing to have in the other guys is, I know that I'm going to get at least 1 or 2 very good to great games out of these guys. And it's Joel's responsibility to take us home at the end of the day. James was capable of that. And James was also capable of sliding back into that. All right, I'm not going to go score 30 tonight. I'll score 18, but I'll have 12 assists. We'll talk about the game 5 in Boston, where it's just a floor game. It's, I'm getting everybody involved. Our shooters are getting shots. Joel's getting the ball at his spots, and ran the team like a real point guard, right? And they had real on-court chemistry, right? And that was identifiable week 1, day 1. Those two running pick and rolls in the middle of the floor, that was a great combination. I understand they had their issues. They both have their issues historically as late series players. And maybe they never went together. Maybe all the free throw grifting and James's apathy at times on defense, you're just never going to win there. But I think if you iterate around that team where Joel was the best that he had been, right? Won an MVP. James played at a high level. Maxey played at a high level. You just shuffle around some role players. You improve the depth. You kill the draft and you make some of these smart choices. And then Tobias Harris's contract is off the books. You turn that into, a role player or two, Devon, instead of signing another star. I think it's just that obsession with what's got to be the next big thing instead of let's let this settle, right? And this would not have been the popular thing to do locally, right? After that Game 7 in Boston, most people were done with James Harden. A lot of people, frankly, were done with Joel as well.
Yeah.
But they had won 54 games. And they did that with a coach in Doc Rivers, who most people were like, I don't believe in this guy, right? What would it have looked like? Same main pieces, better role players, different coach. I will always be curious about that. But I was much higher on that version of that team than most people. And so I understand this is not where most people's brains go.
I'm definitely curious of what that would have looked like. I was not interested in James Harden getting a 5-year deal from the Philadelphia 76ers. I just wasn't. Right now, it doesn't look good. Maybe you just do the 5 years and you deal with it and see where things go, especially dealing with Embiid's injuries, the Paul George nature of the whole thing. But I looked at that 5 years and I thought that was too much. Could they give him 3? Could they give him 4 with some sort of option that they agreed on there at the end? Because if we all remember, part of the reason why Harden was upset was because of the fact that he felt like he did the Sixers a service by taking less and handling his offseason prior to, where it set him up for I'm going to be rewarded, like you talked about, the next offseason. It didn't work out that way, and partially is because he did do all that stuff. He did have a fantastic season. They did get to where they got to in that second round against the Boston Celtics, and he did have those 2 games in particular, plus that Game 5, where he can warrant, hey, look at what I did. The problem was you also had Game 6 and 7 where he didn't.
Of course.
And then you're talking 5 years. You're looking at the age and where they would have been. It's a real fork in the road situation of the Daryl Morey era with James Harden and where this organization would be right now if they had just found a way to agree on some sort of deal. Now, you look at James Harden now, he's still doing the 2-year deal thing. He's playing that game there with Lawrence Frank and Steve Ballmer signing 2-year deals and getting the opt-out quickly and getting back on the free agent market and probably signing another 2-year deal at these big numbers. That didn't seem like that was an option here in Philadelphia. He wanted that long-term security that they had talked about. But the intrigue, as you laid it all out, I was right there with you of, hey, if you can figure out at a number of like 3 years and go from there, I'm in. Maybe even 4 with a player option in year 4. But I was not on the whole pay him for 5 years.
Right. And I think so that's where...
And that's where we at least got it from their camp.
Yes.
That it looked like it was coming that he wanted 5 years.
That's where the communication breakdown hurts, right? Because I think there is a world where you're not doing the illegal tampering, whatever.
Yes.
And you trust each other enough that you come to the negotiation table in the legal tampering period, whatever the NBA calls it. And they sit down and Daryl says, look, I don't think I can give you the most amount of money and the most amount of years, but I'm not going to give you a mid-level exception deal, right? I'm going to give you $30 million. I'm going to give you 35, like whatever the number is or was. The conversation just never happened. And so it just becomes one side says we don't want to give them the max for 5 years, but we couldn't talk with them about what we wanted to give them. And Harden and his people are like, he was going to get shortchanged dramatically, and they just will never come to an agreement on that. So we'll never know ultimately what kind of deal could have been hammered out. But I just think that version of the team, like straight up, I would rather have James Harden than Paul George.
So would I.
Like, I just believe in James Harden as a player more than Paul George. The resume is what it is, for good and for bad. But Paul George has a lot of the same, gut check moment failures that James Harden does without the same game-to-game, week-to-week, month-to-month, year-to-year consistency that James Harden has had. And James Harden, much more durable over their careers than Paul George has been. And that's something that I think they underrated when they had it. And now that you see, hey, the other star, Paul George, is just like Joel, like a threat to miss games basically all the time, you look and say, we didn't know what we had in the durability that he provided.
And again, 2-year contract, once again, not a max contract that he was looking for. Why is it happening with the Clippers as opposed to why didn't it happen in that summer of 23 for that extension for James Harden? So we won't know. that's a miss because he's in LA. And while he flamed out badly in this postseason after having an all-star year, the 2025 postseason
All-star and third-team All-NBA, by the way.
But the postseason was really bad. He was awful again in the playoffs. That's the give and take with James Harden. But as Kyle said, I would take my chances with that versus the alternative and what we
And
saw.
also, frankly, they might have won the series if not for the crazy Aaron Gordon play, right? Like even with the up and down nature of his series, they still were in prime position to win that against Denver. And then Denver put a scare into the eventual title winner. So you just never know.
You never know. All right, you never know what the other ones that we're going to talk about on the other side. We'll tell you about those when we get back as we discuss some misses in the Daryl Morey era here in Philadelphia. As good as he's been, there have been some misses too. We'll talk about a few more, then we'll get to the NBA Cup right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast. And that's presented by Rothman Orthopedics, everybody. We've all been there trying to power through the summer, get through. I got to get to this vacation. I'm not dealing with this injury. I'll look at it in October. It'll go away. Just rub some dirt on it and it's gone. No, those nagging injuries, they can be stubborn and the pain can be just annoying. I'm fine. Let me go rub some ointment on it or something that'll free you up and you're all good. No, but rest isn't cutting it. The dirt rubbing it on there isn't cutting it. That's where Rothman comes in, and that's why we trust the people at Rothman Orthopedics. Whether you're running on the beach, swinging those golf clubs, or lifting the little ones for a pool day, Rothman's specialists are here to treat you with whatever is holding you back. Their top-tier care will have you moving and enjoying every minute of the summer. Patients will find the full spectrum of orthopedic care at Rothman Orthopedics, from diagnosis to discharge. They provide their patients with every service and procedure necessary, such as x-rays, orthotics and bracings, MRIs, physical therapy, and much more. Year over year, Rothman consistently performs among the highest volume of hip, knee, shoulder, and ankle replacements in the country, if it's that serious, at over 60,000. I was one of them, and that's why I'm able to get right back out there and have some fun and talk with all of you today. Don't let the pain put your summer on pause. Visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY to book your appointment today and get back to doing what you love and pain-free. Rothman Orthopedics, getting back to your summer game is their mission.
After you fix your body up, maybe you want to fix your house up, Devon. That's where our good friends at Ace Hardware Home Services come in. At Ace Hardware Home Services, whenever they get ready for the next job, they remember what to bring. Unlike me, I never remember what to bring, Devon. Ace Hardware Home Services brings experience. They're local plumbers and techs that handle everything from repairs and seasonal maintenance to installations and upgrades. They bring understanding. They listen to your goals. Job's not completed until you're satisfied, and they bring helpful to your home so you can spend more of your time on the projects that really matter. You can get free estimates on equipment installation and replacement with trusted advisors and options that are best suited for your home and budget. It's service you can trust, and the satisfaction is guaranteed. So visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your next project.
Welcome back to the PHLY Sixers podcast presented by Rothman Orthopedics. Do have to tell you about one more thing, and that is with our team, our PHLY Flyers team.
Oh, yeah.
And the road trip California takeover that's happening from March 17th to the 22nd. Get ready for the Ultimate Flyers getaway with PHLY and Philly Sports Trips teaming up to take diehards out west for the California takeover with Flyers legend John LeClair along for
Legion
the
of
trip.
Doom.
Yes, indeed, from March 17th to the 22nd, hitting the West Coast for two huge games. First, the Anaheim Ducks at the Honda Center, and then the LA Kings at Crypto.com Arena as the Flyers, they get back to playoff contention this year. I'm calling it. Your package includes optional.
Get fired up, Devon.
That's right. Optional round trip direct flights from Philly, a 5-night stay at the beautiful Sanborn, Santa Monica, group tickets to both games, a Flyers watch party, and an exclusive meet and greet with legend John LeClair. Plus, the Philly Sports Trips crew will be there to handle every detail. Vince is a fantastic host. He will have you all set so you can just enjoy the sun, the sights, and the hockey. This is the California vacation every Flyers fan dreams of. with a couple of wins to top it off. Spots are limited. Book your trip today at allphly.com/events.
Okay, Devon, I'm going to begin this next segment by asking you a question. What do you think is a bigger and more costly mistake? Signing Paul George to the contract that he signed last summer, or extending Joel Embiid prior to last season with his future obviously at least a little murky at that point, coming off of the playoff run, the Olympic run, and wherever they thought he was at the time. What do you think is more costly?
Paul George signing. For the length of years, the money that was attached to it. And while we had many conversations last offseason of, do you go 3 players where you spread the money around, shorter contracts, and all of that, you look at where those questions were already there for Joel Embiid. So if you were going to do that, no matter what, you do that. But maybe you give yourself a little bit more runway with Tyrese Maxey getting his extension the following year, and then making sure that while you do have those other players with them, it's enough to compete in the Eastern Conference. You draft Jared McCain, he pops, turns out to be the right one. And then you see where things go from there. And maybe you do have a little bit of money where you can go into this particular offseason. And while the names weren't necessarily out there, it doesn't mean that you couldn't make some trades throughout this summer to bolster your roster that fits best with now transitioning to the Tyrese Maxey-led era with Joel Embiid still intact with that extension. So I think the Paul George one, because you don't have to do both. And if you already know
he has, so that's actually a point of contention, right? I think we've questioned Daryl about this at pressers and in other settings multiple times, where it's like, well, why extend Joel with all the uncertainty that's out there? And Daryl has said publicly over and over again, intimating that Paul George signing here was in some way contingent on the Joel extension, right? Yeah. And I think that probably further strengthens your point that the George signing is the bigger mistake, because that essentially creates 2 mistakes.
Yes.
One, it's signing Paul George at that number for those years, and you get that first year out of him that you did and have all the issues that come from that. But also then in conjunction with that, pot committing further to Joel when, frankly, there was not like tons of urgency to get stuff done.
But you probably would have done it anyway at some point.
Probably.
But you didn't have to do the other one.
Yeah.
And you understand it. And the 3 stars, I raised my hand. I said, Paul George last summer, go get it done. I thought they were going to make a really good push this past year. They did not. So I was wrong on it, at least for last season. We'll see what happens this year. But to your question, that's the one, and you didn't have to do both.
Yeah. So by signing Paul George, or getting the commitment from Paul George to sign, you are then accelerating a decision that you should have taken a lot more time, clearly, based on what we saw, to let that play out, right? Because while Joel had that moment against Serbia in the Olympics, that game was the exception to the rule. For most of that run in, was that early to mid-August, they were playing over in France. For most of that, he was not super mobile. He looked like the guy that, frankly, we saw in the 19 games that he played the next season, right? Not a ton of mobility, not as much confidence in the jab step and the ability to separate, draw fouls. It looks like he's just flailing at times out there. And to see that and then extend him not that long after, that's where it was like, you get it, because, okay, they have medical information that we don't. The doctors have told them, hey, in most outcomes, this knee's going to improve. It's going to strengthen. He's not going to deal with as much pain. He's not going to deal with as much swelling. You'll have to do regular maintenance, but he should be able to get back at least close to the level he was at before. Mm-hmm. And you find out within a month or two, he's not anywhere close to that level, right? It's not to say he won't eventually get there. A lot of times, especially in recent NBA history, where all these improvements have been made medically, tons of guys' careers have gotten written off far too soon. The examples that jump out at me, Chris Paul, right? Chris Paul had the hamstring, suffers that injury in Houston, declines. He basically gets dumped to Oklahoma City so they can replace him with Westbrook.
Yep.
And it's just like, yeah, well, whatever. He's with the Thunder. Has a resurgent year in Oklahoma City, then has an even better time in Phoenix as he gets further removed. Harden with a similar arc, right? Similar injury, hamstring, looks slow, looks cooked. The year after that, all right, he's closer. He's back to James Harden, not prime James Harden, but he's better. And so people try to get ahead and say this guy's career is done, and that doesn't often happen. So maybe Joel bounces back. That's why I can't say that that's the biggest mistake is signing into that extension. Maybe it is just more time. Maybe this surgery is what does it.
Maybe.
But I don't feel good about it. I've said that on the show many times. I do think the Paul George contract, because it then accelerated this other mistake, has to be in first. But anybody who says that the Joel extension is number one, I can get there. I could probably agree with you. I could at least have the conversation with you, because if Joel doesn't return to that form, the immediate future is just, you can't do anything. There's no movement that's possible. Nobody is trading for Joel Embiid in this state, right? Unless you are incentivizing them with like a bushel of stuff outgoing. And then you lose him, you lose the picks that go with him, and you're not making any progress. It's basically just Tyrese Maxey, VJ, and McCain, and likely dead salary on your books for years ahead. So
yeah,
both of them right now, as of
today,
are dramatically impacting the team. And the hope has to be that one or both are able to pivot off of that and look closer to the guys they were when they were all-stars and all-NBA, and in Joel's case, an MVP candidate.
100%. I agree with you. Let's get to a few super chats that we do have here, starting with, we can get to Marcus Blackstock because he is talking about the Olympics. Kyle, why did he not have surgery directly after the Olympics, or did they not shut him down like the Clippers did?
So
Kawhi?
As best as I can tell from my own reporting, what they've said about it, other people's reporting, is no one thought he needed surgery at that point. I don't think that Joel was told or believed in August or September post-Olympics that he needed another surgery. That the advice of doctors that they spoke to at the time was exactly what I just said, right? That, okay, this will gradually improve on its own without further operations. The cartilage in the knee is going to harden and toughen up, and that's going to allow him to play symptom-free more often than not. He'll get some of the flexibility and mobility back. And there was just no justification that was given to Joel or presented to the Sixers at the time that said he needs another surgery.
Yeah.
Now, as we read the Joel story recently in ESPN, where they talked about the process of his first foot surgery, right? That he felt something was wrong and was told by different doctors, like, or trainers and whatnot, like, well, that's not the case, right? That everything was fine and everything should be fine. You should be able to do X, Y, Z. And Joel trusting his body is what led to the second navicular surgery. And they find that the screw was not placed correct, or it didn't heal correctly around the screw. And that's why he gets the second one. That's why he's had the career that he's even had. Frankly, it could have been dead before it got going. This is similar in that I don't think anyone gave him bad information, but as he got further into the year and is feeling his knee and saying, hey, this isn't right, I think I need something done, that's when you put the surgical options on the table. But I just don't think, Marcus, that anyone had said to him or to the team, the best thing you could do right now is another procedure. That just was not on the table.
Thanks for the super chat, Marcus. We really appreciate it. Riaz next. Speaking of Morey dropped the ball with the Thibault deal. Yeah, didn't think about that one. We didn't even re-sign McDaniels. That was Jalen or Jaden. Which one was it? It just seemed like we wasted a first round pick.
I need to do the like Simpsons hand. It's Jalen with an L.
Yes, and got nothing back.
I thought that was the case, but I wanted to make sure.
That's why I said it first. Jaden, of course, in Minnesota, he's the All-NBA defender. So dropped the ball in the Thibault deal with that one. I don't know how much that one.
I was not a Thibault guy, so
Especially when we
I don't
talk
care
about
at all.
the Ben Simmons situation and how that all played out. That's certainly way in front of the Thibault piece of it. But Riaz, thanks for the super chat. Thanks for sharing. And Schoolboy Davon, aka Schoolboy Beats, 3-star thing is a math
Is a
depth.
myth, I think he's trying to say.
Myth.
Depth has always been king.
All right, depth has always been king.
By the way, the trade that sent Thibault out for McDaniels was Thibault to Portland and a second-round pick to Charlotte. So I don't know where the first-round pick is coming from there, unless I'm missing.
I don't remember the first round pick.
Yeah, I don't. No. Maybe it was a fake first or something. My recollection is that there was not a first-round pick involved in that trade.
All right. Well, so we appreciate everybody. We thank everybody for checking in on the Morey conversation. We mentioned the Ben Simmons piece in passing of the whole thing that happened after the Atlanta series and that entire offseason of he wanted people to come to the house, but he wasn't answering the phone. And then when they wanted to go visit him, he was like, no, don't do it. And all of it that led to the James Harden piece. Could that be a miss of how that was handled? That's hard to say just because of, again.
Maybe they would have handled it better if he just traded for Harden sooner, which he tried to do, by the way.
Before going to Brooklyn.
Yeah, that was part of Ben Simmons' gradual detachment from the Sixers was they made an attempt to trade for James Harden and send Ben Simmons packing before James Harden arrived in Brooklyn. Now, who you believe on why that didn't happen will paint a picture. I think broadly the league believes that Rockets ownership did not want to do a deal with Daryl.
Yeah.
And so they just were not going to trade James Harden to Philadelphia at that time. Does James Harden's season end the same that year as it did in Brooklyn? And does he suffer that hamstring injury if he's here? I don't know. There's a butterfly effect there. But James Harden in Brooklyn that year, when he got into shape and was rolling, he was cooking. He was playing like top 5 MVP level that year, that season, on a team with Kyrie and Kevin Durant. He was their best player. So if they had been able to get him for that year, what happens in those playoffs, right? You're not, I will say this. You are not losing to the 2021 Atlanta Hawks if you had James Harden on that team.
He is destroying that team.
No shot.
He is picking that team
apart.
Now,
he would have had to be healthy enough to get through it, and they still had to win the first seed and all that.
Series,
but they would have killed them.
The first time.
Would have killed them.
100%. I agree with you. They would have been in the Eastern Conference Finals that particular year. All right, let's talk about the NBA Cup, everybody. Because the NBA Cup schedule is out.
That's right.
We're starting to get closer to the actual schedule, which will drop sometime tomorrow. Maybe right around our showtime. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. But the NBA Cup, Bree, the Sixers sent out their group play East B. They are with the Celtics, Pistons,
it
Magic.
Gets spooky. Halloween start.
And the Nets. And the Halloween start, as Kyle pointed out, Halloween on Prime. Amazon Prime, the new partnership with the NBA. They've got the Boston Celtics to start off on Halloween night, Kyle, in Philadelphia against the Celtics for pool play.
It's going to be real spooky for somebody down at the Wells. Well, actually, it won't be. It'll be the Xfinity Mobile Arena.
Yeah. I just going down to the arena, man.
Those are our friends.
They are our partners, so I'll get used to it.
The Xfinity Mobile Arena.
The Xfinity
Halloween night.
Give me some time, y'all. From the Xfinity Lounge, give me some time to get used to the Xfinity Mobile Arena. We will definitely get there. But are they making a run for Vegas in December?
Well, look, those teams, I think I'll speak for myself, but I think we're pretty high on Orlando this year.
Yeah.
I would say I'm a skeptic of the Pistons because Malik Beasley was a pretty big part of that whole deal. And
Tim Hardaway also, he's also out. They replaced him with
they got Duncan Robinson
and Karis LeVert. Those are the two replacements for those two.
So we'll see what it looks like there. I think they'll be a good team, but
Ivy comes back healthy, so we'll see how that plays out. He missed a lot of time, but he looked good.
So they're beatable. Boston should definitely be beatable. When I say they revamped their roster, all they really have done is try to get under the second apron, and then they're going to see how this season plays out. They allegedly have been trying to move Anthony Simons and have found no takers for that contract. I wasn't really expecting him to be a quick flip anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I think logically, since he's on an expiring, you see how he does at the start of the year. You flip him at the deadline potentially, or you just get a bunch of salary off the books at the end of next year. But yeah, I think those are all winnable games. So could they be going to Vegas, Devon? And apparently everyone, so just for your programming needs, all of the knockout round games will be on Prime. So if you are not an Amazon Prime subscriber, good luck watching the knockout rounds of the NBA Cup.
So the pool play, the key dates that they have for the knockout round, single elimination, of course, in December, as Cal talked about. October 31st is when it starts. Celtics. November 28th, the group play concludes. It comes to an end at that point. December 9th and 10th are the quarterfinals, and then December 13th and 16th is when the semifinals and the championship will be taking place in Las Vegas. And again, will the Sixers be there? Will it matter? You saw the Pacers there this past year. Who was there the year before? Was it the Lakers? Was it the Lakers?
The Lakers won the first one
Lakers
against
won
the Pelicans.
Yes.
Because the Pelicans kind of no-showed that game.
Yeah.
And it was a pretty...
Too much fun in Vegas. Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see what happens for the Sixers.
Been there before, Zion. I understand, buddy.
And the dates, Kyle said Halloween for Boston, on the road at Detroit on November 14th, November 25th at home against the Magic, and at Brooklyn November 28th. That's when
against our 7-point guards.
That's when it comes to an end with Michael Porter Jr. probably saying some weird stuff. And Cam Thomas just shooting all the shots so he can get his $35 million that he thinks he deserves. And that
Dude, that report where he's like, he wants something approaching $40 million?
Look,
brother.
Toronto made some mistakes giving guys contracts. But that doesn't mean that Brooklyn's going to do the same thing and giving you $35 million.
I'm all for it. Asking for what you think you're worth. And you got to ask high and then come back to the middle on the negotiating. But
yeah,
$40 million.
40 mil. 40 mil.
40.
40. 40.
Might get 4 at this rate.
That's his qualifying offer of $4 million.
Mark's going to just laugh at you.
Yes, he is, man. I would, and I'd understand
40 million,
I'd understand it if he did that. So, yeah, get ready for some things happening as the schedule gets ready to come out. New logo. New logo. Old stuff.
Is Devon alluding to anything?
Old stuff. Not necessarily the blue that we have the shorts here, but new logo, old logo, getting ready to happen.
Are they doing the goofy courts again this year?
I don't know that. I have a lot of information with that, so let me think.
All right, I don't want Devon to get in trouble with anything that's under wraps for the time being.
Yeah, it's under wraps, but good times happening, at least for the other stuff that fans engage and like with all that. Do you want to do the news and notes, or do you want to just save the news and notes for tomorrow?
Save news and notes for, I think tomorrow will be a big schedule
Big
show.
scheduled day. Big scheduled day.
All 82, hopefully.
All 82.
They better not screw us on the timing, or I will be very upset with Adam Silver.
Better not.
Let's do a roll call,
Let's get to the world famous roll call.
Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us here today and talking about some big mistakes by Daryl Morey and the Sixers. Thank you to D Flyers, to Ed Wright, to You Done Messed Up.
You done messed up, Aaron.
To Antoine, to Yams,
what up, Yams?
Theo, Ed Wright, Marcus Blackstock with a super chat, Riaz with a super chat.
What up, Mark? Thank you, fellas.
DJ, a.k.a. Mr. Sandman on the super chat. We have, is that Rudavad?
Rudaman.
Rudabaker. SB Cole, Brian Knight,
B Knight,
JS. We had RJ coming in with some negativity
the boy,
today.
RJ.
What's up to RJ?
Up,
Thanks
RJ?
for stopping by. I think that's Duck Holiday under a different name, but I see the Brown D. I think that's going to get clipped by somebody. But I think that's Duck Holiday. We got Big AD. We got Jeffrey Stewart.
What up, Jeff?
You Better Love Somebody.
Love somebody.
Kiki, Mom's grandchildren,
Mom.
gets the final shout out. What's up to Mom? Thank you, Mom.
All the ladies, Nona, Jess.
My girl, Nona, Val, Jess. Thank you, everybody. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you get notifications each and every time we go live, and hit the thumbs up button to say thank you to super producer Bree. Back at 3 tomorrow.
From the Xfinity Lounge.
Goodbye.
See ya.
We all silly like the mayor.